Hello, and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for supporting me. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Usually like to start out with a Bible verse, so I'll start out with this one for today. Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. That one's so befitting today. Welcome, everyone who are here. Dave Mendenhall will be with us shortly. He's going to talk about his fight with getting his granddaughter from a corrupt system. Let me bring up a paper I had written and present. Abuse affects our lives in so many ways. What do we do when we are too scared to tell? When we have trusted someone and they did not help? Sometimes someone asks, what did you do to get punished this way? Abuse is abuse. Abuse is not punishment. Abuse is torture, crippling, and debilitating. What advice would you give others to help them through the horrendous memories? Are you there for the person, or are you part of the knife in your friend or relative's back since you may have turned a blind eye to it? Are you claiming to advocate against abuse but condemn the people who tell and share their stories? Do you want to be a part of the solution or part of the problem? Let me get to this right quick because I don't think it is sharing with y'all. We go here and choose this paper. It would show. Let's stand united and discuss ways in which we may help others. What ways have helped you in your healing journey? Are you in a constant battle fighting the negative forces within? Stop. Let's encourage one another. Are you an officer in the judicial system not doing your job to help the victim? That means you're not doing your duty. Your duty is to serve and protect. How do we open the public's eyes so they can acknowledge and feel the need to help protect the children and our citizens? The children are our future. You matter. So, waiting on Mr. Mendenhall. I hope everyone's having a good day today. Not sure if y'all can see my screen. When I go show the different proof, it's going to be a test. If y'all be able to see it. Please let me know. See if it lets it see the screen there. Can y'all see the screen? Or is it going around in circles? I'm going to go to my YouTube and see. Yeah, it's showing it. I see it. Okay. That's good. On my other, I got another laptop over there, and it is not showing it. I see it. Just waiting on Mr. Mendenhall. While we're waiting on him, let me be putting some music in until he shows up. Hello.
Oh, hi, Darlene.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Are we live?
Yes, we are live. Hi,
Oh, okay. All
this is
right.
this is another episode with Dave Mendenhall. He's redoing it because it's had so many glitches the last time. He kept cutting them offline, so maybe we'll be able to get this done. A good deal of it today. But then he's going to discuss his fight with getting his granddaughter from a corrupt system. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Sun's shining. The weather's finally warmed up. A nice morning.
That's amazing. So, where were you from originally? And then you could start at the very beginning if you like.
All right. So I went from Wyoming down to Texas. I got down to Kingsland, Texas on June 20th of 2021. That was 3 years ago. And I wanted to make sure my granddaughter Rachel would be safe and that she would be well taken care of. My son and his then girlfriend, they had relinquished their parental rights to Hannah the year before.
So that was
So
your first. That was your first granddaughter. That and you
yes, that
did.
was my first granddaughter. Yeah, we lost her. So I didn't want that to happen again. I wanted to make sure Rachel would be safe and well taken care of. And I was ready to intervene if necessary. I was ready to do whatever it took to ensure my granddaughter's safety.
Thank you so much for doing that because there are a lot of people who would not do that. And you persevered and you were not going to give up. Kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you. So that was June 20th, 2021, that I arrived in Kingsland, Texas. We are scheduled to induce labor on July 9th of 2021. So we got to the hospital on July 9th at 4 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning. Uh, so they broke the water, and I guess a little while later the heart monitor was jumping up and down, and I asked the nurse. I said, "What's this?" And she looks at the heart monitor and says, "Oh my God!" And I says, "What?" She brushed it off. Says, "Oh, nothing." Um, so later on, there was an emergency C-section performed because the umbilical cord was wrapped around the baby's neck. Uh, but then later on that day, a social worker came to the hospital and interviewed the mother. Or I guess I should say it was a social worker at the hospital that interviewed the mother. And then we were told we had a CPS case. And the next day, the CPS investigator came and interviewed us. That was on July 10th, on a Saturday. On a Sunday, the CPS investigator showed up with another CPS worker. And they told us they had to go ahead and take our granddaughter. They were taking custody of her. This other CPS worker she told me her name was Gina Page. And then later on in the discovery documents, her name showed up as Jenna Price. But that was on a Sunday. So they took our granddaughter at 2 days old on a Sunday. They had gone to a biased judge who had previously been a CPS attorney, and they had obtained a fraudulent emergency order. I mean, they could have easily kept our granddaughter in the hospital until Monday, and we could have went to court and figured it out, but for whatever reason, they felt the need to get a fraudulent emergency order and take her away on a Sunday. So some of their stated grounds for removal, they said the mother had an untreated mental condition. And throughout the case, CPS did not want to treat this mental condition. They stonewalled getting the mother a therapist. They delayed mental care for as long as they could until it was just too little too late. Now, they said the father had a protective order against him and he wasn't supposed to be around the mother. But later on, our caseworker lied and said that the father did not make an appearance at the hospital at all. So for myself, and I didn't really find this out until later, but there was secret lies that were told about me at the hospital. One of them was that I was sponge bathing the baby's mother, my son's girlfriend at the time, that I was sponge bathing her and changing her pads, which was totally false. So there's a few reasons why I figured out a few reasons why they came up with this lie. And well, the most immediate one was to, not let my granddaughter go home with me like they should have done.
Right.
But there was some other strategic reasons.
See,
as near as I can tell. What's that?
And I want to reiterate that a lot of times CPS has got that thing where it's about reunification with family members, putting them with other family members. And that's not like the case like that they're doing. That's what's so wrong about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so wrong, but they get away with it. I mean, they got people high up, in their they got judges and politicians in their pocket. I mean, in Texas,
I'm
pretty sure it's corrupt. The system in Texas is corrupt all the way up to and including the governor. I understand this happens in other states as well, a lot of other states.
Right, exactly. They get more money if they adopt the child out to a non-family member than what they do if it's a family member.
Yep.
I say the numbers, so that's how I know.
Oh, yeah. So the other reasons why they would come up with this, with these secret lies, was to imply that myself, the grandfather, is a pervert that could potentially molest my own granddaughter. And then to imply that it wasn't possible for me to set boundaries with the mother because of an alleged sexual relationship. And the other reason was to compel me to take a psychological evaluation that I would normally not need to take as an intervener.
Right.
So they tried to have an adversary hearing 3 days later on July 14th of 2021. Uh, yeah, normally an adversary hearing is 14 days after the removal.
Right, and they
So,
didn't even notify y'all either, did they, when they did the adversary hearing?
well, they did. Uh, they were desperate to serve us with the papers. They just did that the night before, but we weren't there at the emergency hearing was on the Monday the July 12th, and we were not notified at all of that hearing. Uh, I guess we were told by attorneys that they didn't have to notify us of that hearing, or we didn't have to be at the emergency hearing, but they did serve us for the adversary hearing. Mm. I mean, they didn't tell. I mean, when they removed my granddaughter at the hospital, they told us it was going to be 5 days. There was going to be a hearing 5 days later. So they were really trying to pull a fast one, though. So I'd already gotten attorneys. I scrambled and hired attorneys for the mother and father for that 3 day hearing. I thought it was the emergency hearing, but it turned out to be the adversary hearing. You know, when we got served with the papers the night before. Uh, so at that was by Zoom. This judge was doing all of her hearings by Zoom. But most of the discussion with the attorneys was in the back room, and they postponed the hearing until July 27th. And at July 27th, that hearing was again reset for August 12th. But in the meantime, on uh, on August 4th, well, in early August, we were told that our granddaughter had mental conditions, or I mean, medical conditions, similar to our granddaughter Hannah. They said that our granddaughter Hannah had cardiomyopathy, and so now in early August, they told us that Rachel was sick too with some of these same conditions.
Didn't they even try to say that your your the mother of the child tried to suffocate the baby or something like that? They couldn't. She couldn't help the fact that her tubes, that
Yeah, that
the
was
was wrapped around the baby's neck.
well. I mean, that was during a home CASA visit after they told us that our granddaughter had medical conditions. Which was a surprise to us because when they took her away from the hospital, Rachel was supposedly fine.
Yeah, that's
So
one way that they confiscate the kids and get more money for each illness or sickness that they find wrong with the child.
yeah, yeah, they get a lot more money for a special needs kid. I understand. Uh, so uh, so we had a home CASA visit, and this was interesting. We had the mother's attorney was actually right there witnessing the visit, but she never wanted to say what she witnessed. But they falsely claimed that I failed to pull a proper dosage of medication because they told us now that Rachel had to take carvedilol, and they gave me the medication, had me read the instructions, um, and so I pulled the proper dosage, but the CASA worker on her CASA report falsely claimed that I did not pull the proper dosage of medication. Um, but they said the mother, she was they were showing her a new birthing method, or no, excuse me, burping method of burping the baby. And they said that the mother was found to have be holding the baby's neck so tight that she was actually choking her. Now this is totally false. No truth to it whatsoever. Uh, um, and then when I was getting ready for the Casa visit, I guess maybe I should have put baby locks on the cabinet doors, but instead of doing that, I put cleaning supplies in drawers that were out of reach of a crawling baby. And so there was a CASA report, and we didn't get it until the very night before the adversary hearing. There was a CASA report with these false accusations on it that the mother was choking her baby. Totally false. That I failed to pull a proper dosage of medication, which was totally false. That there were no cleaning supplies in the house, which was totally false.
Right.
So we had this adversary hearing, and I was offered a deal. They didn't even. This was the parents' attorneys. They didn't even consult the parents about this deal. They just came to me and said, "We got an offer for you. We'll place the child with you in 2 weeks if you just do 3 or 4 simple things, and we'll place the child with you." And I said, it sounded good to me. I said, okay. And that, of course, they never placed the child with me. They never had any intention of placing the child with me. But that got them past the adversary hearing. So, so they said I had to turn over my psychological evaluation from the Wyoming National Guard. That was one of the conditions. The other one was to find a caretaker. The other one was to do 3 protective parenting sessions with their therapist. And I don't remember the other one, but it was just a few things like that. They made it sound easy, but it was a bait and switch.
Right, exactly. I've got other people in Tennessee, Texas as well, who's been fighting that correct system and to no avail.
Oh yeah, yeah. So so we went on. So the status hearing was scheduled for October 13th. Just ahead of the status hearing, the CASA worker made her first visit to the house because that was part of the deal. They made it the adversary hearing that we had to give CPS and CASA unfettered access. That, they could make unannounced visits at any time to my apartment. So the CASA worker made her first visit, made another fraudulent CASA report ahead of the status hearing. But at the status hearing, well, I just filed for intervention the night before the status hearing. And my attorney, at the same time he filed for intervention, he filed a motion of discovery. So the status hearing was reset. But the father's attorney was a no-show at that status hearing. And we were starting to see clues that he was actively assisting CPS. Um, so, so the status hearing was reset for November 4th. Now, when we got to the November 4th status hearing, it went on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And the father, my son, had a new attorney there at the status hearing. Yeah, there's a lot of details in this case, a lot of bizarre details, and I'm missing a few of them, I'm sure. So, the other thing was I had to get medical training. That was one of the conditions of placement, that I had to get medical training from the doctor, from the cardiologist. So that was supposed to happen on September 23rd. And it, well, I guess the father's attorney told me to ask the cardiologist if my son could go along with me for the training. And they ended up turning that into they ended up saying that I was trying to take my son. I was trying to take somebody that wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
So that was on September. And then, but I did go to the training on October 21st. I went to cardiology training on October 21st.
Showing the people here, right here, where the paper where it was reported that Rachel is being medically neglected and not receiving the care she needs. I'm showing the proof behind all this and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was way after the final order. That was after the case was over with, and I was in another state. That the sheriff and a local social worker showed up to my door wanting me to sign this safety plan, where I was expected to do the job of a primary care physician and schedule specialist for my granddaughter, when they hadn't even sent they'd only sent a very minuscule amount of medical records to her new primary care physician.
And what's so weird about that, they were looking for every excuse in the book to throw at you and say the reasons why, because, she would not be fit. I think that's kind of weird because you had a high, what was that they had you to do again with your IQ? Your IQ was very high, which showed, and they still wanted
Yeah,
to just.
I ended up taking three psychological evaluations. One of them was the one my father's attorney arranged, so that was favorable to me. But I took one that my intervener attorney, the therapist with my intervener attorney, and my original attorney was, it looked like he was trying to assist CPS too, because he told me to go take a psychological evaluation with his psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever she was. And she gave me a psychological evaluation that said I had an IQ of 110. So made me look kind of smart, but kind of crazy. Now later, the caseworker, the CPS caseworker, sent me to one of their handpicked psychologist for an evaluation. And that psychologist said I had an IQ of 78. So that's a pretty big difference between an IQ of 110 and an IQ of 78.
Oh, yes.
Now that IQ, so that second one with the IQ of 78, it didn't really accuse me of having any mental dysfunctions, but said I was kind of borderline on some things. So, the frustration of taking care of a child would push me over the edge, is what they were speculating.
Right. That you would not be able to really take care of your grandchild because your IQ was so low, you would not have that capability. You would end up losing school and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. How you can get such varying psychological evaluations. It doesn't. Credibility of the evaluators apparently isn't very good. All right. So let's see, to continue on with the timeline. Yeah, we had that status hearing on November 4th. That's where they said my psychological evaluation wasn't good enough, which I shouldn't have had to take any psychological evaluation to begin with. It was had a lot to do with those secret lies at the hospital, but they said my Wyoming psychological evaluation wasn't good enough because it was self-reporting, so I needed to take another one. There had been a couple of police calls on the mother by the status hearing, by the time of the status hearing. So my son was ordered to take a BIP class, a 6-month-long BIP class, Batters Intervention Prevention Program. So at that status hearing, they added to the service plan, which I think that's probably pretty typical for CPS to give you a service plan and then keep adding on to it.
Eric Skinner said, listen, last week, I'm glad your daughter is in good hands with you, Dave. Prayers are going out for you and your granddaughter. God bless you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. All right. So anyway, yeah, I took a psychological evaluation with my one that was recommended by my attorney. And that was the one that said I had an IQ of 110. Made me look kind of smart, but kind of crazy. The initial, well, let me back up a little bit here. On or about November 9th, we were at a CPS visit. And the mother was in her visit with the caseworker. And the caseworker told her she had to wake up Rachel, because Rachel was sleeping. The caseworker told her she had to wake up Rachel to feed her. And so when Rachel woke up, she was grumpy. She was crying. And the caseworker just badgered the mother. Told her she wasn't, capable of feeding Rachel or taking care of it at all. And she provoked the mother into going on a rant through the CPS office, where she called them a bunch of, effing kidnappers and baby snatchers. Stuff that she shouldn't have been saying to their face during a CPS case. But in the end, By the time it came to go to jury trial, the mother wasn't even responsible for that rant because the mother was protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, she needs her attorney or her guardian ad litem there to talk to CPS workers. The attorney, so her attorney or guardian ad litem is the same as an interpreter, as if the mother was speaking a foreign language. So without an attorney or a guardian ad litem to help her communicate with CPS worker, the mother wasn't responsible for anything she said to him.
Wow.
But the CPS worker provoked her into a rant and tried to use it against her.
I think you prepared the mother a little bit, didn't you? Was that the time you prepared her and she didn't go into a rant?
Oh no, that was at a permanency conference on the end of March of 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where she didn't go into a rant, but she had a panic attack.
Right. So they got an adverse reaction to what they thought would happen.
Yeah, they thought that they would have a policeman take the mother out in handcuffs. And I guess somehow intimidate us and discourage us into relinquishing parental rights. But instead, the mother had a panic attack, and that kind of threw him for a loop.
Yeah, this is not good how y'all were treated.
Oh no, it was barbaric for sure.
And then nothing was true on what they had claimed. That's what's so sad about this. If all the facts were true that CPS was saying, yes, I agree with it. But all this was fictitious and made up.
Yeah, most all of it. I mean, other than yeah, especially against me, it was fictitious.
Yes. And you stepped up to the plate too, and we want to commend you for that. I'm sure everybody listening agrees with this.
Yeah. All right. So to continue on with the timeline here, I took my first psychological evaluation on December 13th. Yeah, that was the one I told you about, the IQ of 110. We had the initial permanency hearing on January 8th. Now, they didn't release that psychological evaluation until just shortly before the January 8th hearing. I guess by this point, my own attorney was trying to gaslight me. He was, saying that I couldn't pull a proper dosage of medication, that I was a confrontational person, an angry confrontational person. But the psychological evaluation, we came out with it, and he was talking to me about the psychological evaluation, and he said, now I can understand the National Guard psychological evaluation was self-reporting. So I can understand why you would have to take another one. And I told him, well, my self-reporting was a little different just a few days ago when I went back up to Wyoming. And he's like, what? He kind of starts panicking. He says, what? You told him? You told him about the CPS case? And I said, yeah, I told him. He's like, what did they say? I said, well, they didn't really know what to say. But then when I told him that, suddenly he doesn't want to, he decided that he didn't want to even show my psychological evaluation. He didn't want to disclose it. So at the hearing, the initial permanency hearing, he had the judge clarify that the psychological evaluation was only for the purpose of placement, to place the child with me. It wasn't for the case. The judge clarified that, said yes, the psychological evaluation is for placement. And that I didn't need to show that psychological evaluation. So that evaluator, they designated her as a consulting expert. So he went on.
That email you sent me about that, was that prior to this or after this?
Which email?
Holmes, Diggs.
The home what?
The Holmes and Diggs to the lawyers. That email you sent me.
Oh, are you talking about the one from the mother's attorney?
Yeah, it said, hi, David and Tara, the one you sent me,
That
Courtney
one was
Johnson.
That one was in the very beginning.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share that across the stream so people can see what we're...
Yeah, that was in the very beginning. Where the attorney said that that Rachel was kidnapped.
Yeah, let me go ahead and show this to y'all. Share that to the people so that they can see the... See y'all where it says, hi, David and Tara. I'm looking through the CPS handbook to try and see if CPS followed protocol regarding taking Rachel without a court order. I want to be able to show the court tomorrow that CPS kidnapped Rachel. The sooner you retain, the better for me, so I can work with Tara and you on testimony. Please let me know.
Yeah, obviously she backed off from that. That was all talk, no action. Maybe it could have been a bait and switch, but I think she was a naive attorney and started off wanting to do the right thing and got intimidated.
Yeah, like they had a lot of bigger people in power. And that's what's so frightening. A lot of people might try to do what's right, but when you got people that's got a lot more money and threatening, I guess that went above her what she was, her capabilities.
Yep.
They could go as far as even threaten their family in there.
Yeah. So yeah, we had that initial permanency hearing on January the 8th. One thing about that hearing was the judge said, told CPS that you haven't gotten the mother a therapist yet. Said you can't really take babies and not give the mother a therapist. I mean, I have no doubt that the judge was a CPS hack, but she wanted to give the appearance of being impartial. So the judge ordered CPS to give the mother a therapist by February 1st, and CPS continued to drag their feet on that. They took some action on February 1st, but she didn't really receive any therapy or services until March of 2022, when it was too little, too late. Are you there, Darlene?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was
All
just
right.
letting you talk. I didn't want to interrupt and get you off your
All
timeline.
right. Yeah. But we got to March of 2022, and this is where it really got pretty hairy and got pretty strange. The child's primary care physician, which was one of CPS's go-to pediatricians, she sent out several referrals trying to diagnose our granddaughter with new medical conditions. One of them was a displaced anus.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I went to that appointment where they inspected her anus, and they had to stick. They stuck 3 different probes up her anus.
Oh, man.
Yeah. There was one that was of a smaller diameter, and then a little bit bigger diameter, and then one of a bigger diameter. But at that appointment, the gastroenterologist determined that there was nothing wrong with Rachel's anus. In their report, in CPS's report, they said that I didn't pay any attention until they opened the baby's anus. Then I paid attention, like they're still trying to make me look like a pervert.
Wow. You got to make sure they don't violate your granddaughter. What's the problem there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, these thugs were really barbaric. I mean, it's indescribable. I don't know how they get away with all this. And you're not allowed to present any evidence in your defense in family court. I mean, our own attorneys would refuse to present any evidence in our defense. I mean, until the monitored return permanency hearing.
Yeah, different supporters in here. Gloria's Toady High and Little Wings here too. She's giving you heart prayers too.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. So that was one of the things. And I'm still missing a bunch of details because this case is so bizarre with so many shocking details. But another thing was they were alleging that my granddaughter had possibly had cerebral palsy. They were just fishing around for were new medical conditions to try to say that we were not capable of taking care of her medical needs. So so I had to go to the neurologist to get the results of the MRI, where CPS ordered an MRI to see if she had cerebral palsy or not.
Is that where the lady had said, you don't need to be there?
Yeah, the foster mom. Yeah, that's where she claimed she was the only one allowed back to see the neurologist. Yeah, that I wasn't allowed back to that appointment. So what happened was I showed up to the appointment about 20 minutes early. I talked to the receptionist at the desk, and she said, I told her I was the grandfather, that the foster mom should be arriving shortly. And she said, okay, when the foster mom gets here, you will all go back to see the neurologist together. And so I went to the bathroom, came back out. There was the foster mom. The foster mom told me, it's just me that's allowed back to see the doctor on this appointment. And I didn't really say anything. I just sat down over by the foster mom, over across from her. And she had my granddaughter in a car carrier with a blanket over her where I couldn't even see her, covered up. But we're just sitting there quietly, and she pulled out a pamphlet that said Holy Spirit and started reading it. And I just kind of looked out the window with a slight smile on my face, thinking about what a hypocritic piece of trash she was. And so after a little bit, I got up and moved way back to a different area, back by the door. And at this time, the foster mom went in to see the neurologist.
And I want y'all to even know that whenever he tried to look at his granddaughter, she covered the child up more where she did not want him even looking at his grandchild.
Yeah, that was terrible. But so after the foster mom went back to see the neurologist, I went again to the receptionist and I said, was it just the foster mom that was allowed back, or am I allowed to go back with her? And so the receptionist escorted me back into back to the doctor's room with the neurologist, and the neurologist had a report, MRI report. He put it in my hand soon after I entered the room. But the foster mom said, "Oh, they let you back." But the neurologist put a MRI in my hand, and the MRI was clean all the way across the board. It said Rachel was good, didn't have any neurological conditions whatsoever. Totally clean MRI. So
they were studying her health and her growth and everything that's normal for a child to grow.
yeah, but then we had the permanency review hearing a short time after that, and CPS created the report like they did ahead of every court hearing. They made a report, and the caseworker falsely claimed that that I was not allowed back to see the neurologist, and the only reason that they let me back to see the neurologist is because I was pacing back and forth and making the receptionist nervous.
Wow.
So they let me back. Now, if that was the case, I don't believe they would have let me back. I believe they would have called security.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So at the hearing, when we got to the permanency review hearing, this is what they told to the judge. And they also wanted to see my psychological evaluation, that one before that was that the judge previously said they didn't have to show it. Now they wanted to see it. But it was interesting. That hearing was by Zoom. And I was in between attorneys at that time because my back around March 9th, my attorney had withdrawn from the case by mutual agreement. And it was April 21st until I got another attorney to appear on the case. I didn't have an attorney at that time. So I was at the Zoom hearing without an attorney. And when the judge asked me for my side of the story, I was not able to turn on my mic or my camera. Yeah, every time I tried to push to turn on my mic, it didn't work. My camera didn't work. They said, well, you got to show your face. But I wasn't able to. But at that hearing, the judge really went off the deep end and made a bunch of frivolous rulings, some illegal rulings, which were all met with a de novo appeal. Every single ruling was met with a de novo appeal. One of them was that I had to turn over that psychological evaluation. They ordered the parents to pay child support. And my son had just been recently forced to quit his job by the caseworker. The mother was disabled on disability, and they were ordered to pay child support. That was illegal. So at the de novo hearing that happened on April 28th, that just went to the district judge. He was the one right above the associate judge that made these frivolous rulings, and he upheld most of her rulings.
Wow.
Yeah. The one he didn't uphold was I didn't have to show that psychological evaluation, but they said I had to take another one, ordered by the department. That was the one later that I had an IQ of 78. That was that psychological evaluation. I had to take that one. But in the meantime, the father's attorney had set me up with a psychological evaluation that was favorable to me. So
Yeah, for that.
yeah. So in the end, they just didn't want to deal with me at all. They didn't want to. They certainly didn't want a jury trial. That would have been the living end.
Oh yeah.
But so that was on April 28th. Then at May 10th, we were scheduled to go to mediation. And the father's attorney was really wanting to make a deal, at mediation. I didn't want to make a deal at all. I wanted a jury trial. I had a new attorney. my attorney actually played along with me all the way up until after the jury trial started, kind of leading me to believe that we were going to have a jury trial. But one thing the father's attorney, one thing he went into the hearing saying that my insurance company, TRICARE Insurance Company, would provide a nurse for the child if we weren't capable of taking care of her. My insurance company would provide a nurse. The nurse would give her medication and everything. And that would solve any question of us being able to take care of her. But when we went to mediation, CPS's position at mediation was just relinquish and go away. And so they refused to make any kind of deal or negotiate at all, which myself, I'm kind of like, okay, cool, let's get on with the trial. And at that time, my attorney was like, yeah. Oh, even the mediator, he said, when he was talking about this caseworker, he said, this caseworker is every bit as bad as you would expect.
How old was your granddaughter at this time? By this time?
By May 10th, she was 10 months old.
It was a long, drawn-out battle incident.
Yeah, sure was.
We were hoping you would give up, but no, I'm glad
yeah.
you
No, there was no way I was going to give up. I mean, I was willing to spend all my money. I was even willing to put my very life on the line. I mean, this is just so egregious and so wrong that, yeah, there's no way I was going to give up.
And thank God.
Yeah. So, well, I'll just, yeah, there's a lot of details here, but I'll just, I'll go up. Oh, let's see. Well, what I was saying though was there was even the mediator said there's no point in making a deal with this caseworker, and he said they're not ready for a trial, and you're just better off going to trial. The father's attorney, he didn't like that very well, but my attorney was kind of playing along with me at that time. He said, yeah, if they're not ready for a trial, let's catch them with their pants down. What's that?
Can you hold on a minute? Eric is wondering, can you tell us the years that this is that?
The years?
Yeah, what year was this when your granddaughter was born, and what year was it that the court case?
Okay, so she was born on July 9th of 2021, which was about less than 2 months before some new laws took effect in Texas, like House Bill 567, House Bill 190, which was geared, these new laws that took effect were geared more toward non-removal services, kind of similar to Families First. So, yeah, they took her right. 2 months later, they would have had a lot harder time taking my granddaughter. It would have been a lot more illegal than it even was at the time. So, yeah, that happened on July 9th of 2021. But now we're in 2022. We're in May 10th of, so that was May 10th was mediation. It was unsuccessful. July 2nd, we had the pre-trial. And that's where the mother's attorney showed up and made the Now we had a new judge. It was a visiting trial judge. And she made this judge aware of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and also made the judge aware that the mother wasn't responsible for what she said to a caseworker without her attorney or her guardian ad litem there. And she approached the bench and I guess showed the judge some information. So that was the pretrial. The trial was scheduled for June 13th. So we showed up to trial. I mean, all the way up to this point, I refused to make any deals. My attorney was still trying to give me the impression that we were going to have a trial. So the attorneys went into the back room, and they all went into the back room and left us out of it. You know, they went in and had a discussion. And they came out of the back room, but they had a deal for a monitored return. They would give us a monitored return instead of a jury trial. And, you know, I'm still ready to get on with the trial, but my son, he was scared of a jury trial. He wanted to do the monitored return. So finally I said, okay, if he can do it, if he can go ahead and do this, if he can do this monitored return without my consent, because I'm not going to agree to it. If he can do it without my consent, let him try it, you know. So that's what happened. There was a deal made for a monitored return. It was a mediated settlement agreement. That was the first one. There was 2 mediated settlement agreements during the case. The second one was, of course, when CPS had nothing left to do but give my granddaughter back. They agreed to give her back. But the first one was for a monitored return. Now it's kind of interesting here that I lived in a nice apartment where they did background checks on everybody. Now they approved a monitored return to my son at the place where he lived. Yeah, they called that suitable housing, but he was within 50 feet of a convicted criminal, a registered sex offender.
Oh boy.
And so they approved his place as his residence as suitable housing. Later on during the case, well, where do I start with this monitored return? I don't know, but they had to have a when they gave us this monitored return, though, they had to have a person monitor the monitored return. And so we agreed on a friend and fellow church member of the DA. And he was there the first week. This gentleman was there the first week to monitor the monitored return. And he kind of thought we were doing pretty good, thought CPS and CASA was really excessive, that they were over the top. So after the first week, they decided they didn't need him anymore. They wanted to see if my son can handle it on his own. That was one thing. We had the foster mom kind of kept messing with the medication with the syringe and everything.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How did she do
Ye-
that?
well, to give you one example, one time I couldn't even open the syringe at all. It was almost like it was super glued shut.
Oh, wow.
So, but I just went down to the pharmacy and got another syringe, and she would never, when she sent the medication, because this was a transitional monitored return. He had to. It started out as 4 hours a day. It went to 8 hours a day, and it just graduated up to more and more time. But he would have to go pick pick our child up from the foster mom, and take her to his residence or to her appointments, and then return her to the foster mom.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
She had everything in her power to keep that child, wasn't she?
yeah, oh yeah.
She wanted
But
that money.
yeah, but yeah, I just went to the pharmacy, got another syringe, got a syringe port. The port that goes in the at the top of the bottle where you. Uh, yeah, she would send the bottle without any port in the syringe for you. Uh, so I mean, just anything to make it harder.
Yeah, I guess she didn't expect you to go to the pharmacy and then get a pen, you know, to figure that
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Uh, but then and then my son, he had to go to the foster care contractor. After every doctor appointment, he had to go to the foster care contractor and hand in paperwork.
That little Wing says you're giving your grandchild a whole future. You'll be the real man in her life that she needs. She'll always have your unconditional love. That matters the most. Lots of love.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, she already does really look up to me. She really clings to me. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, I sure love her too.
Yeah, she's a sweetie. I seen her picture. No, she's a beautiful girl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so when my son had to go to the foster care contractor to hand in paperwork for a doctor appointment, he done something he shouldn't have done, and he done it twice. He left my granddaughter in the car, and I mean, it was right by the door of the foster care contractor. It wasn't a very long time, but he left her in the car twice. um, and then there was also during that time of the monitored return, there was also a lice. The foster mom said she found a louse on my granddaughter. Now, I don't think there's just one louse. If there's lice, there's a whole bunch of lice.
Right.
So my son had to decontaminate everything, and he had to jump through all those hoops. Um, but he handled the lice thing pretty good. I told I told Randy, with the questions you're asking him here on the group text, you should just fire your own attorney and be your own. Fire your attorney and be your own attorney. But but anyway, the monitor. So we had a hearing on August 8th. That was a monitored return permanency hearing. And so that's where CPS is trying to stop the monitored return, of course. So at the hearing, it went on for 7 hours. Uh, so some of the more notable things that happened at the hearing was the child's primary care physician. She failed to answer a simple question from the mother's attorney. The mother, the mother's attorney asked the pediatrician. She said, in the beginning, the the doctors missed Rachel's medical conditions. They They failed to recognize it. And one of these doctors was you, was it not? But she said, so you're expecting Randy to be more alert than doctors. Is that right? And she refused to answer that question. Her mother's attorney kept saying objection, non-responsive. The doctor kept saying that's not a fair question. She refused to answer that question. Now
Little,
about my
little,
son leaving our child in the car, it turned out there was a 5-minute rule where you're allowed to leave the child in the car for 5 minutes.
Little Wig says accountability is the first step towards the change we need. Thank you, Dave, she said.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so you're allowed to leave a child in the car for 5 minutes. Now, we had a bunch of viewers that were on YouTube because this hearing was by Zoom. This monitored return hearing was by Zoom. There was a bunch of viewers on YouTube. One pretty smart individual. He made a comment about the 5-minute rule, that you're allowed to leave a child in the car for 5 minutes. So 2 minutes after he made that comment, the father's attorney went and, to cross-examine the witness that worked for the foster care contractor. He cross-examined her and he said, are you aware that it's legal to leave a child in the car for 5 minutes? And she said, yes. Then another thing that happened was there was a totally baseless accusation from the new caseworker, because the other caseworker was removed on July 16th. There was a totally baseless accusation from the new caseworker that I was using meth. And since I was using meth, probably the whole family was using meth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there is no basis whatsoever. One of the other things that, let's see here. And then one of the other things that happened was the foster mom had some pictures of our granddaughter, and they had to be doctored. I mean, but they were totally disgusting. They made it look like she was being abused in my son's care. But they were, she didn't cover they were nude pictures, and she didn't even cover any body parts, didn't cover private body parts. And so the mother's attorney really freaked out about that at the hearing,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was totally inappropriate.
Right. Eric wrote, would you understand your granddaughter is now 3 years old, in good hands with a good grandfather. God bless you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long battle, and it still is. So that monitored return hearing went on for 7 hours. CPS was not able to stop the monitored return, and I believe that was the turning point. I believe that was where CPS realized that they would not be able to terminate parental rights.
I'm glad that y'all.
Yeah. So there was one more hearing. They had that in person on September 15th. That was mostly about that hearing had mostly to do about the details for the rest of the monitored return. And we went to mediation on November 3rd. And at that hearing, there was nothing left for CPS to do but to give our granddaughter back. They agreed to give her back on December 5th. And we agreed. It was an agreed final order. It's what was agreed to at the November 3rd mediation. Of course, CPS had every intention of starting a new case. I have no doubt. Um, we went to at least 5 of them against my son. There was one investigation on the foster mom.
It partly,
CPS
partly,
said they. What's that?
partly cut out a little bit, so we didn't get the
Okay.
whole sentence that you were saying.
Okay. So at the final hearing, CPS said they still had concerns. Yeah, they'd started a few different investigations during the monitored return. But at the final hearing, they said they had concerns, but they couldn't go any further. They were returning the child to the family.
Thank God.
Yeah. So that night after that final hearing, we left Texas. We hit the road with the child.
Well, glad you're there. Glad
Came to Wyoming. Yep.
I think I'm giving you a clapping for doing that.
Yeah. But as you know, they still wouldn't leave us alone after we were out of state.
Yeah, they want to keep continuing.
Yeah. So I guess when my son called 2 days later to cancel a physical therapy appointment because he said we relocated, they started a new investigation.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they had an investigator urgently trying to contact us. That was about the time my AT&T phone got suspended for non-payment because I didn't have any money. I'd spent it all in this CPS case.
That's what they hoped for, so that you wouldn't be able to find them.
Yeah. But when my phone got suspended, that stopped the caseworker from trying to call from calling and texting.
Right.
I guess that was an investigator trying to start a new case. So that investigator was trying to contact my attorney later. Yeah, they just kept going. But on in the early part of February of 2023, I had a National Guard drill. I was just been released from a National Guard drill, been released for the day, and I went to my babysitter's house to pick up my granddaughter, and I saw a local cop. Noticed him following me to my babysitter's. And a few days later, the cop went and interviewed the babysitter. And then about February 20th, I had a deputy, a county deputy, knock on my door wanting to do a welfare check on the child.
No.
And, I told him he was, unless he had a warrant, he was not coming in the house.
Exactly.
Then the next day, I had a town police officer knock on my door wanting to do a welfare check. I told him the same thing. Now, this is kind of interesting because the town police officer, later he told me that when, after I told him he wasn't coming in the house either, of course, he heard my child making noises in the background and, he thought she was fine,
Uh-huh.
But he was sitting out in front of my house after I refused to let him in. He was sitting out in front of my house for a while. And later he told me that he was talking on the phone to the investigator in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I guess he told the investigator that he really couldn't go in the house because, he told the investigator that he couldn't violate the Fourth and 14th Amendment, and even though he never saw the child, he heard her making noises, and it was apparent that the child was fine. Uh, so so after that, I went to the town mayor and about these town police officers coming to my door, and after I had a visit with the town mayor, there was no more town police officers coming to my door.
Woohoo!
But on March 9th, I had two county deputies and a local child protection worker. In Wyoming, they call it Department of Family Services.
Oh boy.
Two deputies and this DFS worker knocked on my door and asked me to sign a safety plan. And I said, no, thanks. I didn't even see the safety plan. I guess she had it in her folder. That time I did take my granddaughter outside to show my granddaughter to them, to show them she was fine.
Right.
But yeah, I said, no, thanks. I'm not signing a safety plan.
Yeah, I'm not getting involved with y'all doing this crap to me again, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. Hell no. So on March 31st, I had one county deputy and that same DFS worker come to my door again. And this time they had the safety plan. And that's that safety plan that I sent to you.
Uh-huh.
Where I was expected to, it was alleging medical neglect. I was expected to do the job of a primary care physician and schedule doctor appointments for my granddaughter. Like I was supposed to schedule a cardiologist when she was already under the care of a cardiologist. And the Texas doctors, they only sent 14 pages of medical records to her new primary care physician. That's all the records they sent. So that safety plan, I refused to sign that safety plan. It says on that, as it says on that safety plan, in the signature box, it says refused, if you notice there.
Yep, I see it down there.
Yeah.
And you see the date is 2023 for
Yeah.
to know when it was.
So it gave me a week to do all this. A week later, I sent her an email, and I believe you have that email as well in your.
Right.
Yeah. And email just explains that that's the primary care physician's job, and the primary care physician didn't have the proper medical records, and now she does have a lot more records. So yeah, I mean, it was inappropriate. It wasn't even my job. So after I sent that email, I never heard another peep out of the local law enforcement or the local Department of Family Services, the local child protection agency. Yeah, not another peep out of that DFS worker or that deputy. So that's.
Yeah, I showed them the different paperwork.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole thing was all pretty bizarre.
Well, they wanted you to sign that over, but they could probably send her back to Texas again,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
And they didn't bother you again after the
no, they
second
didn't
time
bother me
again?
again. And no, my grand and no, Rachel's doing pretty well now. She's you would never, by looking at her, you'd never know that she has any any medical condition. She's active. She's walking. She's running. She's
And
jumping.
a lot of the medical conditions were forced too, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I think the caseworker even made up some of her own that weren't even diagnosed by a doctor.
Whoa. Yeah, because every illness or something like that, I think they got more money.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is going
So
on a lot. I got a lot of friends, like I said, in Texas that are still battling the Texas system. They are still, even though they got that new bill and everything, they are
yeah.
still doing wrong and kidnapping our children and even putting them with pedophiles and the
Oh
dad
yeah.
abusive and all kind of stuff, and even adopted the kids out. You know, when
Yeah.
a family members to you give it to, and they just they said that tell the family just like they did you that they're working through a plan, you know, to try to reunite, and they're toying you along, but they have no intentions of doing that. Instead, they adopt the kid out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's from what I've seen about that new law is, yeah, they're using a few different ways to get around it. Sometimes they just ignore it outright.
Right.
Um, Sometimes they'll they'll take the child and they'll place him with another family member, but that family member might be the abuser, like the ex-husband, or uh, sometimes the family member is an abuser, or that other family member is somebody that's really not very enthused,
Yeah,
and
like
so later they can take that child from that other family member. They can make a case against that family member. That's one of the things they're using.
yeah, like there was one case I seen years ago where this rapist had raped a girl and she got pregnant, right? And then she decided to keep the baby and everything. And when the guy got out of jail, the judge actually let him have partial custody of that child, and him being a rapist. And you know, it was nothing, no relationship between the mother and him, except for the fact that she's a victim of that rapist.
Yeah,
What a
yeah,
corrupt system this is to
yeah.
place
It's totally
child
corrupt and horrendous. I mean, yeah, people need to wake up here. I mean, uh, I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up, but I guess a lot of people, if it doesn't affect them, they're not too worried about it. And I don't know. I guess if it even with me, I guess I probably have a hard time believing it. If it doesn't happen to me, I guess I probably have a hard time believing it too.
Yeah, you probably, a lot of people say, well, CPS is good, you know, CPS won't do nothing like that unless the
Yeah.
parents bad, da, 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 da. No, they are actually doing some bad things out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're doing some bad things, and well, what it is, I mean, everybody's for protecting children. Who's not for protecting children? I mean, I'm all for
Exactly.
protecting children, but so they're given, almost unlimited power to protect children. But when you give anybody power, it's going to be abused. I mean, at a certain point.
And see, a lot of people are losing their kids to people that's got money and they could care less on how the child is treated when they're under their wing.
Yeah.
You know, there's too many traffickers out there that's buying kids and everything. So this is horrid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's horrendous. So, yeah, we just need to raise public awareness about this
Yeah,
and take action.
like at 12:30, I got another program I'm going to do, and it's infant suffers broken bones. And this she was 13-month old in Pennsylvania. The police officer slash soldier raped her,
Oh, wow.
and they got out of jail on bond after she even suffered broken bones.
Yeah. Unreal. Yeah.
I mean, you know, if that would have been you or me or anything like that, you know, No, we would still be under the jail. But look at these people, and
Yep.
it's sad. And I would never even think about doing anything like that either. Beside the point, And this
Yeah.
is what it's supposed to serve and protect. So there it goes and shows what the system is failing our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, we just need to get it out there and educate the public. I mean,
I appreciate you for educating us and on what you went through, and anytime you feel like it, I do have that blog talk channel as well. We'll do it on there also. Might could reach out to more people. And I hope that more people would share the video also so that get the word out for you.
yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I think I'll head back home here and get back to my granddaughter.
Okay, I appreciate you doing all that.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate you doing the interview. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. We really do love and appreciate you for taking care of your daughter, your granddaughter, and being there for her and stepping up. I'm glad that you are winning this fight. I know it's a constant struggle because they'll still try to do things. Thank you for being
Yeah.
a warrior.
Yep.
Don't forget to give that little girl, some special kisses when you go back home.
All right. I sure will.
Okay. Well, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. God bless you too, Darlene. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Good night, everybody, and I hope to see y'all around 12:30 for another story. God bless you, Dave. Bye bye.